Kelsey here again. This time I'm going to talk about some of the reflection and action points for you about self-care, including values, your likes, dislikes, and then the rhythm of life. What is it? What rhythm of life do you want? How do you set that up? And just other things to consider as you're thinking about implementing self-care. So to start with, I wanted to share with you some of those reflection and action points. First one to consider are values. So we all value something, whether it's family, money, fame, health, faith, whatever it is, we value something others. But for those of you who do have time to consider and reflect on things, one of the most important things that I would urge you to consider is what is important, not just what is urgent and demanding your attention. We all fall into the trap of attending to those things that are demanding our attention, even me. But being able to recognize when you are doing that and being able to adjust to figure out what are those things that are more important, and to be able to be consistent in our values, in what we say we value and what we do. So with our busy schedules and things going from one thing to the next before COVID-19, often I heard that it's just difficult to be able to spend quality time with family. And with COVID-19, it's been a little bit easier for some families to be able to get together and spend more family time together. And that would be an example of things that are important, like family time, but other more urgent things were demanding our attention, like going and bringing our kids to the baseball game, or running them to gymnastics, or going here, going there. So I guess I would invite you just to consider what you've missed because of all the schedules. Are there personal needs or needs of others that you have neglected because of that busy schedule? And then even going forward, do you want to do, and what do you want to do differently? And how do you want to learn from that going forward? So one of the action points that I have that goes along with this reflection is just noticing and being aware of, in this next week, where you spend your time. Don't do anything other than that. Just be aware. And being aware of this will tell you what it is that you value. Where you put your time is what you value. So another thing, even as you're noticing those, notice what you feel as you're doing that activity. Do you feel happy? Do you feel excited? Or do you feel scared or unhappy? Or is it uncomfortable? And even noticing where in your body, like tension in your shoulders, or maybe you feel like butterflies in your stomach, whatever it is, just notice where even in your body you feel it. Because this will point to, as you notice these things, this will point to the passion that you have about that activity. If it's something that is boring or you just feel like you have to do, noticing where you feel that is another value that you should consider. Is, in reflecting on it, is where is your stated values different than your lived out values. So after you take note and you notice where you spend your time from the previous value question and reflecting an action point, notice if there's any discrepancies. Are there things that are different where you say that you value something but you don't spend as much time there. Notice that, but then try to figure out what is it that's blocking you from living out those values. Because that will give you an indication of what is going on to prevent you from actually living that out. And one of those things to consider in questions is the second one. What do you say to yourself about those discrepancies? Are you kicking yourself? Are you blaming yourself? Or are you just like, hey, I know I didn't do it this time, but I'm going to try different and harder next time. And being able to actually put that into practice. That will tell you whether you have shame that's blocking you, or whether you are just have what is healthy guilt. So an action point to try is, I would suggest trying to journal, or just taking an inventory about what you notice, where you spend your time the most, and then the time that you are most passionate about doing that thing. So as you're doing those, also take note of, is there an activity that you thought you didn't value as much as you actually spent time on? Or is there something that was vice versa from that? So just as an example that I would like to share is to think about when you're those values is when you say that let's say you value, and you notice, and answering the reflection question is that you say that you value communication and family. But as you notice over the week that you spend a lot of time on a screen, just whether you're looking at social media, or you're checking the news, or you're on Pinterest looking at, recipes or something for the family. But even when you are around your family, you notice that everybody's on their own screen. They're maybe in the same room, but you're not actually interacting. Or maybe there's a couple times that you're interacting, but it's not as much as you would like. So I guess my illustration is here to point out that when you say you value something, and then having the discrepancy of it being different, just noticing, like, is that something that you're okay with? Do you want that to change? Do you want that to be consistent? And maybe that if you are dissatisfied with this, you try to do something different, and you decide that you're going to take responsibility for yourself, for your part in it, and you decide, oh, okay, I'm going to put a time limit on how much I'm spending with screens, and I'm going to try to come up with a schedule or things that I can do to involve my family. The limits are endless, but I just give this example to help and show you and point out that there are a lot of things that we value, but this is important for you to be able to reflect on and understand as you're going about trying to understand self-care and put it into practice. So another thing to consider is your likes and the dislikes. More so focusing on what you do like. So the reflection question or point is, what types of activities do you like? Do you tend to be more athletic and you like sports, whether playing it or watching? Or are you more interested in the arts? Or do you really like nature? Whatever it is, being able to hone in on those areas that you really do appreciate. And maybe there's something that you thought that you might like, but you have never done it. Maybe because either you're afraid or because you just haven't had time. Whatever the case is, just notice and maybe try, as the action point, try something that you haven't tried before. maybe being creative in trying to find something that's free or something that's a variation of something that you've done before that you maybe thought that you might like. Um, and as you're doing that activity, just noticing what is going on inside of you. Again, that same just mindfulness reflection piece of what's going on in your body and what does that feel like? So just thinking about some of this as an example, maybe you have liked the idea of working out and you know that you should, like we all know that we should work out, but maybe you have always had a million excuses of why you haven't started. With the weather getting nicer and some of the lift coming so that we can have a little bit more social interaction, you start to run. Or maybe even not there, you start with walk and then you move to a run. And as you're running, maybe you can only run a few blocks for the first couple times that you try because you feel like you can't breathe, your legs are on fire. But afterward, you get a sense of accomplishment and just being able to notice what that feels like to be accomplished in doing that thing because you set your mind to it and you tried it and you know that you want to continue trying it because it is beneficial for your health and that's something that you value. So just being able to know that you can build that over time and focusing on those things that you can control, that you can do, even as you're thinking about what you value and what you like, and including all these things, putting them all together. So another area that I would invite you to consider is just the rhythm of life. So there are natural rhythms that are in life that we've just been so disconnected with, especially the last 100, 150 years because of modern inventions like electricity and the internet and social media. All these things have created a sense of disconnect from the natural rhythms of life, for instance, the seasons. Whereas before, people usually were only near food that was seasonal. So you only ate like winter foods like potatoes and onions and vegetables that stayed good, or you fermented or you canned these fruits and vegetables and meat that you had in the winter time. And then in the summer, you had a whole different type of food and ranges of food. So my point, I guess, is that those rhythms, those natural rhythms of life that we used to be a part of as a society, as humans, we aren't as much anymore because of being able to truck food in and have electricity so that we can stay up all night if we really wanted to. Whereas that wasn't really the case when you only had candles and fireplace. You didn't really stay up that much. So, and bringing this up, my point is more so that there were and always are rhythms in life, and what type of rhythm do you want to create for yourself in order to have that balancedness of rest and work and play and meaningful connection, in order that your life is healthier, has more balance to it. If you don't have balance, then it creates imbalance, which creates more stress and chaos, and the more stress it puts not only on your body physically, but emotionally. And both of those things can contribute to depression and anxiety, and just down and down the cycle goes. So being able to have that balance is important in order to reduce that stress and anxiety. So how then, in looking at the rhythm of your life, one of the reflections that I would have you consider is what and how would you like to work what you value into the rhythm of your life going forward. And how can you reclaim that balance in your life? I mean, the more that you can plan, the better. Having a healthy rest and healthy connections are important, particularly as you consider that there are things that we can do that are normally they're benign. There's nothing bad about them, like for instance sleep or eating, but maybe they have become unhealthy, like you're using sleep to escape or food to avoid how you're really feeling or to make you feel something else. Those, and then in and of themselves aren't bad, sleeping or eating, but because of how you're engaging in those activities, it makes them unhealthy. So as you're considering the setting up this rhythm of life and even thinking about that, are there areas that you have unhealthy coping strategies and have been using those in order to avoid how you're feeling or suppress how you're feeling? One thing particularly that I would urge everybody to do is limit your social media, particularly about COVID-19. That just creates more anxiety, more stress than what is necessary. So some action points for trying to set up this rhythm of life is, of course, continue doing those activities that you're already doing, like appropriate to the current social distancing or whatever guidelines there are at the time. But being able to set up that rhythm, limit yourself to only one or two things like that are new each week, and then being able to implement them all together, the things that you are already doing and the things that are new. I think just one thing that you should remember and note, though, that it takes 66 days to up to 8.5 months to be able to make a new habit, something that's new, into something that is a lifestyle change. So if you really are serious about making this change happen, know that you're going to end up having to give yourself grace at some point, because there will be obstacles. You will probably not do it perfectly. You will make mistakes. You may fail at times, but that's okay. Through failure is actually the way to success, and being able to get through that in order to have that lifestyle change be a part of you and a part of your rhythm of life. So this is just an example that I found of a structure that somebody had come up with. So right away at 9 o'clock, going for a morning walk. Then from 10 to 11, having academic time. Then from 11 to 12, creative time. But each of these, they blocked out time for different parts of themselves. So the physical part in the morning walk, academic time, dealing with school, creative, using arts and being creative, chore time, so dealing with work, quiet time, so being able to reflect and rest. So they're able to incorporate all of those things in order to have more of a balance. The last things that I would urge you to just consider is being grateful and what is in your control. So reflecting on, and part of the action point is reflecting on 3 things that you're grateful for and why. Each day, those being different. So giving the reason why should be different every single day, even if what you're grateful for is the same. But doing that for 30 days is helpful, particularly if you're feeling depressed, because in doing some of this, it creates a sense of positive, being able to focus on those positive things rather than on those things that aren't happening, even if those things that aren't happening are of small amount of time. So you're actually enjoying the things that are all in front of you instead of those things that aren't. And then as far as the control, just recognizing what is in your control, which there's a very limited amount of things that are in your control, which is how you treat yourself and how you treat others. So, even in this time, it can be more like what is in your current immediate environment. Maybe you have control over how clean your house is, or how you respond to somebody on social media because they're bashing you for wearing a mask or for not wearing a mask, or whatever your beliefs are around that. How you respond is in your control, not necessarily how they are talking to you. So recognizing what is in your control. So an action point for this would be when you start to worry about something, or you're stressing about something, or you're triggered about something because somebody said something to you on social media. Take your time to remind yourself what is in your control. Just take a moment, breathe. And then if it is in your control, then do something positive, supportive, loving towards yourself or towards that other person, or both. But if it's not in your control, being able to release that, let that go. 2 activities or exercises that I like in being able to release control is being able to take a washable marker and writing on your hand what it is that you want to let go of. So let's say you are having a hard time even in letting go the fact that you weren't able to be there when, or like you're not able to be there for your cousin because they're getting sick. So you write that on your hand and you wash that off with soap and water. So you're literally washing your hands of that thing. You're letting it go because you can't control that. You can't go to see them, at least in the current restrictions. Transitioning soon, but the point being that being able to help in letting go of those things. Another one would just be writing that on a piece of toilet paper and then flushing it down the toilet and seeing it go away, down into the drain. So those are just some things also to consider as you're thinking about what you want that rhythm of life to be, and you're taking care of yourself and doing that in a supportive way for yourself and for others as well. Finally, I just want to end with here are a couple resources, particularly if you still have other questions or concerns, or there's more that you want to talk about along these lines, especially in parenting. Please give us a call at the township and we'd be happy to help you. Until then, I hope that you all have a good day and you stay safe.